Hi! In this video, I want to explore with you the root causes of anxiety. I want to go really deep and look in our subconscious brain and give you some powerful techniques and interventions to shift things around. So if you struggle with anxiety or you're a coach helping others with anxiety, this video is for you. My name's Bijan. If you're new to my channel, please give me an early thumbs up and subscribe. This really helps my channel to grow. Thanks a lot. A big thank you also to my mentor and coach, Dr. Gunther Schmidt, who developed these really fundamental insights. So let's go right into it. Anxiety. It can really hold us back in our lives. It can let us feel stuck and frozen. And the usual reaction I get from coaching clients, and I feel for myself as well often, is like, I want to get rid of it. I want that the anxiety goes away. It just destroys my life. It holds me so much back. And the first important realization about anxiety is that it's over thousands of years given us over evolution. It's like an evolutionary competence to help us survive. That's very important to embrace and to realize. So over all these years, the humans with the best skills evaluating and finding dangers survived. So this is one of the most fundamental mechanisms in our body. And because it comes from our subconscious, it's not possible to get rid of it or to control it with our conscious part of our brain. So that's the first thing you have to realize. And then the second thing is we need to change our goals. When we try to get rid of anxiety, it's kind of a task which is impossible. And this lets us usually feel stuck and helpless and powerless. So shift things around. Instead of getting rid of anxiety, we should do a more reasonable goal, like how to deal best with our anxiety. This can give us more power. This can let us feel that we feel able to act, able to do something around it, instead of having such an impossible and unrealistic goal. So it's very important to develop a new relationship to your anxiety. I know it's not easy because usually when we feel anxious, it's often that it overwhelms us. It really comes close to us and we feel kind of overwhelmed and stuck. It's a little bit like a rabbit in front of a snake. So we kind of feel paralyzed because it comes so quickly and it happens so fast. But then usually what happens is we react with anger and rage and fear towards ourselves. So if I ask clients, well, how do you feel about the anxiety? They usually say, I want to get rid of it. It destroys my life. I can't do normal things anymore. Like, I don't want it. And this is totally normal to feel. But at the same time, this frustration and anger. So we have to realize there are kind of two layers that come to play when this happens. There's usually a side of us, a part of us, who is overwhelmed by this fear. But then at the same time, there's another part of us which reacts with anger and frustration and gets mad. And this is kind of additionally a dynamic that happens in our brain that drains even more energy out of it, because we can get so furious about ourselves and getting mad about the fact that it drains so much energy. So it's not just the fear, it's also often this internal spiral and dialogue that happens with it. Brain research shows that there's one condition needed that fear or anxieties can happen. You need a fantasy about the future. And usually it's a threatening fantasy. But it always has to do something with the future. And another thing is, it is a lot influenced for sure what happens around us, and especially one thing are the news. So if you watch TV, if you look into newspapers, day over day you see these cruel pictures, just negative news. For sure the news doesn't show you something positive. It's news sells, and therefore you just see the negative things in the world. Yeah, this can really bring a lot of dangerous pictures, threatening pictures in our brain, in our mind. So we start to worry about the future, what might happen to us. And these pictures leading to this feeling of freezing, overwhelming. And what also often comes with it is loneliness, feeling isolated. That's what clients very, very often tell. So it's a fantasy about the future. Maybe it's helpful to remind ourselves it's not 100% the truth. You can't tell that this is 100% the truth. It's just a prediction. But it can also go the other way. It can also end in a positive way. There are so many possible outcomes. So it can help to realize, okay, it's just one scenario. There are different possibilities, and there are also possible outcomes that are positive. Another good example is, it's like an inner nightmare at the daytime. So we have a nightmare at daytimes, and then we feel so overwhelmed. If you have a nightmare and then your body reacts like it would be reality. So this is shown in studies and in research. Our blood pressure goes up, our hormones are accordingly, our breathing, like our body prepares to usually three things: freeze, fight, or flight. So it's a big cocktail induced in our bodies, and it's despite the fact if the situation is real, if a lion is in front of you right now, or if you have this fantasy in front of you right now, the reaction of your body is the same. What can help us is realize that's a fantasy. That's not the truth. It just feels like it is here and now, but it isn't. And at the same time, when we are in these states, when we're in this freeze state, we don't have connections, we don't have access to all our capabilities and all our competences we built over the years. Usually they're not in reach in these states because we kind of freezing. Another very important thing is every emotion which comes up is totally natural. So it shows you're a human being. Congratulations, you have anxieties. That means you're not dead. Just dead people have no anxiety. And usually every emotion is like an ambassador, and it comes up for specific needs we have. In this case, a need for protection, a need for feeling safe, a need for maybe feeling in control and feeling powerful again. if we realize this, there's certain needs are coming up, then this is also better to deal with it. It's a good reframing. That reminds me on, okay, what do I need? Parts of me maybe need some help, protection. They don't feel safe anymore, and this can help, like getting a little bit more distance to these threatening pictures. So there are some powerful techniques that can help us to feel more in control and get our power back and get more connections again to our competences and all our abilities. Very powerful is if we focus on the here and now. We can do this, for example, with breathing. When you feel anxiety, usually what happens, our breath gets quick and very, very shallow, and we feel like we prepare for, like I said, running or fleeing or whatever. So what's really helpful to ground yourself more in the here and now is have some deep breaths. Usually it's ideal if you just breathe in like 3 seconds and breathe out for 6 seconds. So elongate your exhalation. And what you can do additionally, what can really help, is like make a sound with it. And what can even help more, if you verbalize your fears, give permission to yourself to put them in words. Oh my God, I have so much fear. I feel so fearful. Oh my God, I have so much fear. Try this out. You realize your anxiety won't get worse, it will get better. So that's a very powerful tool to ground yourself more in the here and now. Another thing which comes with anxiety is usually we feel kind of a narrowness in wherever it is, in your neck, often in our chest. So it's interesting, the word anxiety comes from a Latin word angstus, which means narrow. So this shows really, we usually feel tight here around our space. And there's a movement, there are also studies around this, which shows if you use your palms and do this movement, then this shows it can help you create space and create more distance to this fantasy that is so overwhelming and threatening. So remind yourself always the anxiety is normal, so it can stay, it's allowed to stay. But we can help ourselves getting a little bit distance to this fantasies that coming so close and overwhelming us. So whenever we feel overwhelmed, we can do this like, oh my God, oh God, I feel so anxious. I make myself space. I create some space. I need some space for myself. Oh, I feel so anxious. Oh, I make myself space. I make myself space. Oh my God, that feels so good. I make myself space. So that can help you getting some space. And then get back to your competences. Like there are also, or before we do this, let's look at another aspect. If we look at, so if I ask my clients, if you're feeling anxious, this part of you who feels anxious, not the other part who feels rageous around it and wants to get rid of it. So this, we already figured out there are two parts involved. If we connect to our part which feels so overwhelmed by this anxiety, I want to invite you, feel inside of you and feel, how do you feel if you're connected to this side? How tall or how small do you feel? How strong or weak do you feel? How old or how young do you feel? What clients usually describe is that they feel way younger, way smaller and weaker. So this is usually a part of us which is way younger. Maybe it developed in early age, in childhood. Maybe we had some situation which made us really anxious and fearful, and we hadn't any tools to deal with the situation. As children, usually we don't have that much tools to handle certain things. And this can lead to this powerlessness, this feeling of powerlessness, and these parts in our brains, whenever we feel this intense emotion, especially anxiety, when it gets really intense, it can really like kind of burn like highways in our brain that are like safe there forever, and whenever they get reactivated, we feel at the same time like back into time, back as when we are children again, and feel totally helpless, powerless and overwhelmed. But the good thing is, we are grown up by now. We have so much built up, we have so much competences, so much capabilities, so much resilience we built up over the years. So remind yourself, you have a grown-up part in yourself as well. You have a part which dealt with difficult situations in the past. You had situations where you felt powerful, where you felt you could deal with things, where you felt you can defend yourself. You had situations where you were in your power, you felt strong, you felt good. And usually that's also connected, what is your power pose? So how does your body pose look like if you feel powerful? Does it look like this? Does it look like this? There are so many different possibilities. Usually it's like we have space, we have room, we have control, we can look out for dangers, but we are also flexible, and we can do things, and we know we are grown up, we are adults, and we have all the tools. We can get help from others, even if we feel like I can't deal with this situation, but we can get help from others. So whatever comes, we have capabilities into us. The problem is, though, if we connect it to this fearful little side of us, the connection is missing. So, ideal, if this fear overwhelms you, first create space. And then remind yourself, bring in your grown-up part, and remind yourself you have all the capabilities, you have competence in you, and these can help this little side. If we think further around it, if we think about it, we have a younger side of us which feels very powerless and very vulnerable. Imagine there's a child in front of you which feels like this, which feels totally anxious, totally overwhelmed. What would you do? Would you maybe give it a hug? Maybe you would tell, like, everything will be all right. You don't have to worry. I'm here for you. I'm there for you. So what we can do this internally with our little child. We can send it love. We can give it a hug. You can even imagine a picture of your younger self, and like you are as an adult there for it. Your grown-up part says to your younger part, I'm here. don't worry, we will do this together. You are not alone anymore. I'm here for you for the rest of your life, so you don't have to fear these things anymore. These can be very powerful and can found a new strength inside of you if you first time maybe see this little overwhelmed side in you and remind yourself that there are other parts in you by now and they have the capabilities to deal with whatever comes. One last thing to make it round, to make it complete. What usually happens, even if you realize all this on a conscious level, because these impulses of anxiety and our reactions coming from deep from within our subconscious, we need to build like a bridge, a connection. So what can be very, very helpful is observe what is your impulse, what is your reflex, what your body does if the anxiety overwhelms you. So when anxiety comes next time, one example can be, okay, if you feel anxious, you maybe do like this, like you tense up, you get narrow, you observe what happens in your body. So usually this could be an example that like you tense up and maybe bend even a little bit forward. So if this is a reaction, go on purpose a bit deeper into it. So if you think about feeling anxious, then do this and then combine this after you feel this anxiety and you get narrow and tight, then combine this with, I need space, I make myself space. So, and then you can connect this, I go down and make space. I freeze and make space. I freeze and make space. So repeat this 10, 20 times, that this gets saved in your brain. You can connect these two through repetition. Repetition is the magician to make shifts in your brain. So if you do this flip from your anxiety reaction to your power reaction to your space reaction, if you do it over and over again, it gets saved in your brain, and then you get a connection to it if it happens next time. So whatever comes, don't beat yourself up. It is normal that it comes again, and your usual reaction comes again as well. But this can be a reminder to get even more powerful, to get the connection to your grown-up side, and that you come back into a state where you feel, okay, here I am in the here and now. I'm standing with my feet on the ground. I make my connections to my capabilities, and I'm able to manage the situation. And I remind myself also that this is just a fantasy. There's a possibility that there comes a positive outcome as well. And whatever comes anyway, I will do it. I will find help if it's needed from others, but I will survive and life will go on. That was a lot. I hope this helps you dealing better with anxiety. I really appreciate that you stuck until here to the end of my video. Really means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Give me again an early, not early anymore, but give me a thumbs up. This really helps my channel to grow. Thank you so much. See you in my next video. Until then, bye bye.